Meeting to order. I would ask that if you haven't signed in, please make sure you do so. We'll stand for the salute to the flag and a brief moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, liberty, justice for all. And just a brief moment of silence to recall those members of service who've answered their last alarms. Thank you very much. Right on time at 2:15. For roll call and excuses, I've received requests for excuse from the meeting from Dr. Rowe, Paul Diver, Rajmeet, Dr. Gujral, Anne-Marie Glazer, Dr. Dishner, Dr. Harris, who was here. Draw one through that, Dr. Ng and Dr. Pardo. I need a motion to approve the minutes that were sent out by email. Dr. Zenz. A second. Okay. Anybody opposed? Okay. Yes. Now, the minutes also included the attendance for the last meeting. Any motion to approve the attendance is sent out? Team. Okay, anybody opposed to that? Okay. So for moving on to correspondence, the New York State Bureau of Compliance has sent out a bunch of emails. We have 4 Compliance Bureau notifications that have to be read into our minutes. First is EMT Brian Fernandez, number 452886 from the Bronx. He was censured effective July 15, 23 for violation part 800.16A2, assessed a civil penalty of $1,000. It was civil penalty was stayed without pending no further violation for 3 years. EMT Giovanette Osterhout from Albany, number 375786, surrendered effectively their certification on 8/7/23 for violation of part 800.16. I guess it's 218. Okay.
We're back on, so we didn't broadcast that since it's illegal to do so.
What? Premature broadcast?
Illegal to broadcast the tones.
Really? I didn't know that. All right, well, thank you for keeping us in compliance with federal regulations.
You're out of prison with 1 more month.
Okay, yes, just one more.
Just one.
Okay, so moving on, EMT Robert Ortiz Jr., Brooklyn, number 378919, surrendered a card effective.
Oh boy, now we're in.
Brian Torres from Spencer Court, 266687, suspended for 1 year. Starting July 17, 23, the suspension was stayed for the providers on 3 years probation, required to comply with agency performance improvement plan and supply reports to the agency prior to August 2023, August 2024, and August 2025. This person was assessed a civil penalty of $2,000 for their violations of 10 New York Code of Regulations, Part 800.16A1, 2, 3, and 9. So that goes to show you that they're starting to enforce the QA/QI stuff. There's your teeth. There were some fire departments downgraded, some fire departments upgraded from BLS to ALS and vice versa after state inspections. Those are ongoing, so make sure that your agency is in compliance and that you don't have a pocket full of good things to take home. But the state inspections are also, they look for expirations, simple things like low-hanging fruit. So just regularly review your equipment in your vehicles and on your person. There was incoming email from Dr. Erica Schwartz Cohen from Merrick Fire Department to become a field physician with the accompanying data, including her CV, PALS, ACLS, the required training requirements for minimum for provision of medical control, and a letter of support from the agency. There was an incoming letter from Dr. David Silver, who is a ER physician from Glen Cove, and a letter of support with all his stuff. There was, and then I put New York State immediate downgrade of Inwood Fire Department for CS non-compliance. Outgoing, there were letters back and forth to those respective physicians indicating the items required to become field physicians, and there were no other significant outgoing letters. Moving on to committee reports. And eBridge communications and general devices stuff. So there was a lot of back and forth about what the region wants in terms of customization for eBridge. And I think that those issues were sort of worked out or being worked out. So for chairman report again, I want to thank everybody for your participation in this committee. This is your volunteering, your time, you're coming out in the middle of the day, of a work day, and I appreciate it. But more so the people who we serve, I'm sure they appreciate it more because of your expertise and because of the things that you bring to the table. We are really making some significant changes to the care in Nassau County for EMS, for our families, for our friends, for the people that are passing through our response area. So thank you. The other thing is, though, that even though we sit here as experts on the region in providing regional EMS oversight, this committee has multiple subcommittees as we're about to report out. Those subcommittees need help. So please, whatever your role is, if you could just add one more thing, we would be appreciative. We are hoping to have a regional EMS agency medical director and EMS agency manager update, just to see how things are going with eBridge, see how things are going with quality. They're waiting for, I guess it's really just waiting for the summer to end and things to sort of come together with eBridge as to coalesce before we could put this together. And so we could have some data. Now that we do that, now that we have that, we'll be able to start looking towards scheduling a meeting. eBridge, I have to say that the fight has been a good fight. There was a lot of reticence to use it, and then once it was used, everybody seems to be climbing on board and wholeheartedly. So thank you, everybody. Thank you from on the hospital side. Thank you on the provider side. Thank you to this committee for embracing it. That's one more change. I'll give a little bit more under eBridge when we get to that. So just as from the chairman's perspective, we just need to remember we are now entering the fall season, and then soon will be winter. We need to make sure that we monitor ourselves and our providers for illness, because we need to stay robust and be able to respond and answer that call for help. So please make sure you keep your workforce healthy, provide them the things that they need to stay healthy. And that includes mental health, that includes physical health, because we don't want them getting sick and then bringing something back to their family, because then if their family's sick, they can't come out and respond either, right? Because now they're stuck taking care of their family members. So provider wellness is not just taking care of the guy that's on the truck, but it's taking care of their family and not just physically, but mentally. Performance improvement and quality. Dr. Zazo has a committee of basically one. Even though people have stepped up, I appreciate it. We need more people to submit names to volunteer. As we get more data, it's going to be more stuff to look at. And, you know, having a perspective from multiple areas of the region and in multiple pre-hospital, you know, in-hospital, supervisory, clinician, members of the QA/QI committee makes the data and the analysis of the data a little bit more robust. So if you would be kind enough to volunteer, that would be great. I'm soliciting for your again, same thing with REMAC policy. We're going to see that the RSI committee came up with stuff. We have policies that need to be looked at on a regular basis. It's not fair for a committee of two and now one to have to do the work for everybody in the region. REMAC membership. So I sent out a cumulative over this last term, which is the past 2 years, attendance sheet. There was only one correction sent to my attention that was made. The REMAC has a policy, as does the region. You miss 2 meetings, theoretically you're off the committee. But this body, as by history, has said if you miss your meetings and you don't make the minimum required attendance, which is usually 50%, we'll send you an email asking you your intention. Do you want to participate? Do you want to continue on in this body? Can you participate? If not, we'll take that spot and give it to somebody who may want to be able to fill that role. We're only allowed 20 voting members. That's the bylaws until they're changed. But if we have people whose names are on our rolls but don't show up to the meeting, it doesn't allow for somebody who would be interested in having a say and a vote onto the committee. This is an open meeting. Everybody has a say. We make sure of that. We're on the internet so people can listen. We record it, and we encourage input from everyone because 20 people is not enough in a county with a population of 1.3 million people. Please make sure that you take a look, and if you get that email from us asking your level of participation, and if you need to step back, step back. There's no rule that says you can't always rejoin. Again, communicating to the region, please communicate to the proper email address or mailing address. Wall times. I asked Don to quickly pull the data. If you guys get his weekly report, it's listed in there. We're actually doing very well. The average for the region is pretty much on a steady state. And wall time is just a generic number for the amount of time an EMS unit arrives on scene at the facility and then goes back in service. It's not the real measure of wall time, but it's a proxy of wall time. And in September, the average was 36.8. In August, the average was 36.5. July, the average was 34.8. I anticipate that we're going to find in October and November, those numbers are going to go up. As our call volume goes up, as our ED volume goes up, as people start taking vacations and they go out sick, we're going to see the number of EDs on diversion go up. Remember, diversion is a request. It's not a demand. You may request diversion. We may say no, or we may put you on redirection. And it's not anything other than for patient safety and for your provider safety. So please keep an eye on your wall time because we're keeping an eye on it. We want to let you know. Lastly, New York State posted or pushed out to the program agencies the winners for the 2023 New York State EMS awardees based off of the 18 different regions and their awardees. Nassau County got 2 New York State awardees. We got Dr. Rajmeet Gujral, one of our own members, for Physician of the Year. And medic Paul Zuckerberg for being ALS Provider of the Year. So congratulations. I think that's really great. That shows that Nassau is still in the game and that the state is recognizing all the hard work that you guys are doing. So congratulations. Thank you. So for CMAC and medical standards, just moving on to reports. Don's report is much more robust than anything I would put down because he sits at both the CMAC and the SEMSCO. So I'm pointing the finger at what's posted online. I put a link to it in the email. I think that if you review the notes, you'll see basically that there's a lot happening, but there's a lot that's being said that's not happening that I need to bring to your attention in case it does come down. One of the things that the state is talking about is regional credentialing. There's been Bureau interpretation of guidelines and regulations, but there's been no formal Bureau of Legal Affairs documents to follow those statements. So we're going to continue with the way we've been practicing because the CMAC and the SEMSCO believe the region should be able to credential, but the Bureau of EMS doesn't. And until there's an official statement from the Department of Health, which oversees both of us, the big group, and the Bureau, we're going to continue the way we're going, which is our credentialing process online, our QA/QI. QA/QI and credentialing are things that were actually talked about at the state on multiple facets. So just please keep your ears open for any changes that may occur as a result of changes in the regulations, either legislatively or administratively. So that's all I have for Chairman and CMAC. Any questions on those two reports? All right, Dr. Zazzo, QA/QI.
Great, not too much. Again, like Dr. Kluger said, we would appreciate anybody who's interested. I've had a couple people of QA/QI coming in. As we're starting RSI now in the county, we're having that subcommittee. That's going to be another area that we're going to need to QA/QI. So I would appreciate any help. Anybody wants to come in, please do. Just let me know. We'll set up a time that's mutually, agreeable to everybody to have a meeting and do it that way. There was one case reviewed along with the RSI for a near drowning that came through QA/QI also. Patient did well. There was no issues.
I guess you just played with your phone.
So,
Not me.
Just so everybody knows, which is something that we found out also. On Nassau DOH, we actually review any near drownings in the county have to go through Nassau DOH also for review. So just what happens is, when this comes up, is if anybody requests, if you have anybody in your departments that deal ocean-wide or poolside, and you have a call and DOH calls you and says we need a copy of the PCR, it is legitimate. All right, so you can.
Yeah, I had to call him. I was like, am I allowed to do this?
So I got on the phone.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's okay. So we can forward that. So just for future reference, if that happens, you can clearly and legally do that. Other than that, that was all there was. So any questions or? Very much.
Okay. All right. It's the Dr. Newbert show for RSI.
Both of them are doing really well. So iGel, we have 17 agencies now approved, and I have an application for the 18th.
Not 15 but 17.
17. Yeah.
Oh, you gotta send me the updated list.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'll get to you. I'll send you. So we have 17 agencies approved, and hopefully we'll do the 18th today. So I had a question. If we've had any uses yet, none that I'm aware of. But we have a lot of people trained, so I mean, I think just as a success from a regional perspective, in coordinating with the Fire Police Academy with Scott and Don, we've got a lot of people trained, probably a couple hundred folks. So it's been very good. So that's working out really well. Obviously, we have a use. I'll coordinate with John, and then we'll review it and send it up to Hudson Valley. But as of right now, at least we have a lot of buy-in and a lot of excitement, and we're showing that we can train lots of people and participate in pilots. So that's all good stuff. And then so I'll bring up the application under new business for legal public out. And then for RSI, we had exceptionally good meeting today. I appreciate everyone that came. We had 22 people at the meeting. which was really good. We were able to establish the committee of physicians and paramedics that will be doing the voting on and approval of both agencies and medics. And we have multiple alternates. So we have 10 people on the committee and 9 alternates, plus me as the chair. So we actually have 20 people involved, which is really good. So we have lots of people, and we can move this forward, which is really good. New Hyde Park as an agency was approved for RSI, but we do not, we tabled approving medics until the next meeting because we wanted to get everyone up to speed, and we coordinated with Don. So there was that little hiccup from policies and procedures friends that they approved our policies and procedures, but then we never actually repackaged them and passed them out to everybody. That was kind of part of the hiccup the last meeting, not this one, but the previous. So with Don, we got everything all basically correlated and nicely put together. So now we have one packet for everybody, so that way we can send that packet out. So that got done. And we have to make sure now that we have the newly reestablished or reborn RSI committee that's now doing operational stuff, that we just get that out to everybody. So that's why we held off on approving any medics until next meeting. So that way everybody would be on the same page before we did that. And we agreed upon training, airway class, and how to do reciprocity with our neighbors in Suffolk County, because they did a lot of the legwork in their county, and we piggybacked on that and got a lot of information from them. So we got a lot done at the meeting. Really appreciate everyone coming and the buy-in and getting everything moving forward. So possibly we will have RSI medics in December, definitely by next year. And it has gone really well, and it's been a real grassroots effort and success story. So thank you.
Oh, thanks, Dr. Newbert. And thanks to the RSI committee. Any
Thank you.
questions for Dr. Newbert on either BLSI gel or RSI? Fantastic, moving on. Dr. Ryan?
Yeah, we did not have a meeting to monitor the statewide collaborative group, but nothing that seems to precipitate a meeting. But I do have a request from the Suffolk County REMAC chair. They are wrestling with the bypass decision to LBOs. They asked if we send them a letter if possible, or communication stating that we reviewed the data recently and chose not to do a bypass protocol.
Sure, if you could send me,
Talk offline about that.
just send me an email to remind me, and with this group's permission, I'll send an email off, basically describing what we've discussed, been spoken about and spoken to, and reviewed the literature on in the past, and send it back to them, if that's okay. All right, great. So just
Why does he want a letter from us? This is.
I guess there's 1 or 2 institutions out there that are very much pushing for bypass, despite the lack of support from the literature. And he knows I chair this committee, and he thinks it would be helpful if we had some communication from all committees discussing the community, and we're not doing it for me.
actually, I went out there like 3 years ago when they had their stroke ambulance come out. They wanted patients who had a stroke in Melville to be brought by the Stony Brook Stroke Ambulance, 45 minutes away, response time, back to Stony Brook via their stroke ambulance, when they could have been in a regional stroke facility in 10 minutes and get a TPA, which made absolutely no sense to me. So, and at that time, they agreed, they understood, it made no sense. But I guess it's rearing its head again. So yeah, I'm happy to.
A lot of battles going on about this issue.
Yeah.
Now there's been a randomized controlled trial 3 months ago that did not support it. But they're not.
Medicine is medicine. I don't understand. But all right, whatever. That's their mission, guys. We'll help them with that letter.
I think it's under the California Court.
We probably will have to work with them closely anyway with regards to E-Bridge. So we may as well start building that collaborative bridge with this letter. So that's great.
Yeah, it's starting to initiate a lot of things to bridge out there. So that's fun.
Good. So thank you for that, and just follow that up with an email, and I'll write something. So credentials subcommittee, under new business, again, we're going to bring in bring up for vote the approval for Dr. Eric Schwartz Cohen and Dr. David Silver for field positions. That's all I have for credentials. Is there anything else under credentials that we need to address? Okay, moving on. Policy.
So is it not a meeting as there's no policies up for review? If there's any policies that anyone wants to look at, I'll go ahead and start together a meeting and.
Yeah, we may have to just do a couple more from the RSI side, so
We can look at it again, yeah.
and we'll send it out to everyone this time.
It just needs to be updated.
Get back to this body.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, great, thank you. Any questions? So REMAC, Ann Glazer sent me an email asking to be excused. She said she had no report. So communications and vice chair report, Dr. Josh.
Nothing new to report. I think under unfinished business, we'll talk about the E-Bridge piece of the communications tag.
Okay, and so just with regards to usage of eBridge, I just wanted to go over that really quick. I took a look at the Describe X server that the region pays for. Just for the month of September, excluding all test uses, there were over 2,700 calls or uses or notifications on the eBridge server. And that's from multiple agencies. It's basically every agency in the region except for one. And then in October, just for the first 3 days, we have 348 uses. So, I mean, it's being used vigorously. There were in July 288 minutes of calls back and forth between providers and hospitals and medical control. That includes testing and training. In August, there was only 304 because that's when we went live. We were no longer really using it to train and test. But for six agencies, 304 minutes is pretty good. September, when we went full thickness, we went from July's 2,888 to 3,000, almost another 1,000 minutes of communications between providers, medical control, and hospitals, face-to-face or voice-to-voice. That's in addition to the little snippet notification. So that's pretty impressive. We added 1,000 minutes of just communication back and forth, so it's doing its job. And in October, we have a whopping total of 50 minutes of use. So I think that it's being adopted very, throughout the county, and everybody's embracing it, which is really wonderful. I've seen that there was an agency that was having a little bit of trouble getting ETA put into their report, but one provider found a workaround. But it's not because you didn't try. So I think that as we learn how to use the application more on the different devices, tablets, laptops, the tough books, or your phones, I think that we're going to get even more and more data, more and more information. We'll be able to actually analyze it. So it's really great. EAB, almost every screen I look at on Describe, it's mostly EAB communications between your ambulances and the hospital. So that's really great. Your guys just went from 0 to 60. So thank you. It was wonderful. Yeah.
Other than the alert fatigue that some of the hospitals were experiencing and looking to attenuate some of that, and maybe this question, Don, is coming towards you. And I remember we had a discussion about what are the next things that we should be asking as a committee, as a body, to study. Is it the minutes of utilization? I don't know that that's really relevant to anything. I mean, some people maybe are talking too much. Maybe it's bad that we're overutilizing talk time. Maybe it's good because we're communicating better. I'm trying to figure out what are the right metrics to, look at how effective are we? Obviously, the number of agencies that have it, that are using it, that's one. That's pretty simple. But what about, what are the next questions that we should be asking? Maybe we should be asking the users, is there something that's not going well for you? The hospitals are chiming in, but what about the people who are using it? I've recently been informed of somebody who was really involved with a very sick case, just could not get hands back to the eBridge, felt it easier to voice over the mic, and get into a phone call situation. Why that wasn't done for Rebridge, I don't know, but, you know, again, I'm wondering about that.
So I think that's timely and I'm with NYU. I can safely say that we're thrilled with that. But we're working over in Floral Park and occasionally in Garden City. We're experiencing dead zones where you can't communicate, probably because I believe it's Verizon. So we're now, that's a huge problem. Well, we can't even call them by phone. That would be, that we have Verizon. But we just experienced, I don't know if you want to look at that, and I don't know what can be done, but it may be something that's an opportunity.
We definitely need a place to get feedback. So the one-off, hey, it didn't work in this particular area, but just general feedback so we can share with the partners at GD to say, hey, look, this is an issue. Is it your whatever?
This is not a one-off. This is,
Yeah.
my experience is that Verizon just doesn't cover Floral Park that much.
I had the same thing. I mean, I work on Sunday. We got a trauma coming in, and I can talk to the people. And I need to know, should I call level 1, level 2, level 3? And they got the information on the phone, but I could call in or so Metcom can be in touch with the room. So, and again, I don't work that often.
So that's actually something that I've heard as well, is that sometimes the crew, the provider, it's a solitary provider, regardless of what agency, may not hear the hospital calling them back asking for further information, like last Nobel first stroke, or can you send me that EKG, even just a screenshot, because they're busy doing the one-on-one care for the patient.
I get a phone call and I would know what's coming in.
Right.
I would know what's coming in. I know exactly what level of call.
So what that has to go back to medical control, go back to this body. We need to know what agency it is, because maybe there needs just to be additional training. Saying, when you bringing in a trauma, these are the required elements of.
They told me it was a trauma. It was a trauma alert, but they couldn't get in touch with it to get more information.
Right, you couldn't get back to them to get the requisite information you needed to make a determination about a certain level. So
For us, it's different because we pick up the phone all the time. We're always on the phone. Right. So it's a change in the way we do things. We don't have somebody to sit at the computer and give information. We're constantly running around. And then when the phone rings, when we go to pick up the phone and we talk to someone. We don't have somebody
working the time, right?
It's just
No, but that's the kind of information I think, again, it's not for me to dictate, but I think the ComTag would like to be part of that QA piece. But, I want to be respectful of Dr. Zazzo's committee, but also I just want to know from this body, what should we be asked? That's a good point. How many times has the hospital not been able to get secondary information when trying to retrieve it from the provider? And if that's a problem, if it's an ongoing problem, it needs to tweak that. So I just want to generate some thought here. I don't know if you need answers. We're a month into this thing, so congratulations on that. But let's try to figure out what smart thing, Dr. Rowan.
So I good point. I think the same thing. Anyhow, but 2 things. I mean, this communication probably replaced other communication. So if you're looking for a time metric, I don't know if it's accessible. You can say how many minutes you spend on the phone. I don't know if we have that from the control. And is this more efficient? Like we went from 1,500 minutes to 1,000 minutes, purveying the same information to save time. And the other question is subjective, is accessibility and satisfaction, which would be a survey tool. So if we're looking to collect data, I think there could be viable metrics.
Yeah, smart. I'd love to hear from medical control.
Well, I'd like to know on the hospital side, you mentioned, is it decreasing your time to patient hit your door to the cath lab, to the time of trauma? Is it expediting and making those numbers come down? It's quicker once we get the doors to have, you've got all this information this way, is it making it better?
I've gotten anecdotes back just from organizations saying it helps them with their resource utilization in the hospital, knowing what's coming, when it's coming. The surgeon doesn't have to stand by for 20 minutes. The person's out in the field, having to stabilize in the field. That keeps the surgeon from staying there and putting a casket while they're standing still. So again, these are the important conversations we should be having. I think we decided when we launched, we wouldn't get into the metrics because we let this thing mature a little bit before we try to study it. But I think now we're getting to the point where let's just ask the right things. So.
I work in medical control a fair amount, and one of the things we run into is diversions. So when you get 4 or 5 of these e-bridges that come through that we have reviewed, sometimes it's hard to keep up with the diversion status, whereas someone would come over the radio and go to Winthrop, and we know they're on diversion, we can communicate with them in real time, versus trying to catch them and then trying to catch up with them, because a lot of the people really don't view the spreadsheet.
Right.
They just don't look at it. And I don't know if that's an education piece or otherwise, but we've had different nurse administrators calling up and basically giving us the business about, well, I thought we were on diversion, we just talked to you. And one of them, I actually had to send the supervisor to the hospital to basically educate them a little bit as to what's going on.
That's a level of it. I mean, if they're complaining about diversion again.
Totally, I totally get it, but when there's, it also impacts the system, so we're trying to.
No, so but there is a second part to that, and that is,
That spreadsheet.
I don't.
part 2 of eBridge. Right, part 1 is get it out and get it going, get the 5 simple buttons in place. Part 2 is put the rest of the process in place. Our policy calls for other selections that aren't currently on the application. It also we're looking into, we started asking about translation services. I don't know if I can't remember if I brought it up at this meeting or at the REMSCO, but to make EMS care equitable for all of our patients so that we can provide quality of care. eBridge allows and has a process to allow for translation services. It's by the minute and you pay them up front. And it's basically like Pacific Interpreters or whatever that company is. And they put you in touch with somebody who speaks that language primarily in English. And you could do a full history physical and do proper health care based on the person's real chief complaint, not based on your gesticulations and
So perceived misunderstanding. So I think what you were saying is, yeah, sorry.
I didn't know if there was something in eBridge that
So-
could actually flag it as a diversion.
But part of that is eBridge is actually going to start pulling data from that diversion board. And if a hospital is red, you can't select it.
Got it, perfect. That's
Okay,
what-
so-
that's great to hear. But
That would
that
be
was a
big help.
concern of a lot of
Right.
people that I interface, I'm just bringing it back to you, so what
So-
I hear.
So we're doing the crawl, walk, run thing.
Perfect, the next thing
and-
was, I just
yeah.
have 2 other quick things.
Keep
One
going.
other thing was, I found a lot of providers, especially the ones that are not very experienced, when they have a serious fall, whatever it may be to them. They're getting on the radio and they're asking for confirmation that the hospital knows they're coming. I think that maybe that's a hospital side thing, that they need to maybe interface with that crew a little bit. When they see a trauma or an arrest, and maybe, I don't wanna say ask a question, but maybe, engage. So that they know.
But they can call the hospital on eBridge.
I know that, but they're calling us and they're looking, and then we're calling in turn, so it's almost like we're duplicating.
Right.
So you know what I'm getting at?
But that's a training. It's a
Training thing on
conversation.
They're looking for some type of positive verification rather than someone just saying.
So it's
Dr. Ryan, Dr. Ryan has a-
And I'm
Yes,
just, these are things that I'm hearing.
Sometimes the hospital doesn't even acknowledge. I'm saying
Let's
we
get
don't
less
even-
and
we
less.
get no acknowledgement whatsoever.
So,
when we get on the
There
radio.
is, the region has a policy that if it's a low priority BLS call, the hospital doesn't have to acknowledge. They're responsible for the information. Just as if you gave them a high priority call, but if it's a low priority BLS call, hospitals have been given permission and eBridge has been told that they can actually alter the sound of that alert tone to like a cricket in the background or something. Just the icons will flash, the alert will come on the screen. But if the nurse is in the middle of triaging a trauma patient, they have a choice between dealing with a life-threatening problem or acknowledging a low priority BLS notification to the ER. I'd much rather they ignore the low priority BLS notification to the ER, take care of the sick patient.
This wasn't a low priority.
But
This was a
so-
status notification.
so then that's great. So then what you need to do
And then
is
we went
just
through, medical control.
follow that up with an email to the region as for quality, and we can address it as it occurs. Bringing it up here long after the fact is very hard to do a timely intervention. But if you want, send me an email with the information, and we could look at it and get back to that facility.
So just from a provider's point of view, if you're gonna turn off the notification.
It's not turned off.
Just advise us, because you gotta make it
Well-
trouble, we're 4 blocks away, and say, you know, I get that, it says, so on diversion, I can't notify them. I'm gonna do.
Well, you should be treating your patient and then sending the notification before you transport. But if the hospital if you have a critically ill patient with a loss of airway, it doesn't matter whether the hospital's on diversion.
Right.
It doesn't matter,
Exactly.
right, you take a patient to where they need to go to be stabilized, and then they can be transferred to the higher level.
And I just had one other question. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. So are all agencies using the Seabridge? Because I've noticed that
Yes.
there's one glaring deletion that I don't see in medical control.
So
We
that,
used to get a lot of notifications from them. and we
Right,
had
so-
zero.
there was a meeting today,
That's great to hear.
and they're going to start, they're starting small. They had that one agency had a lot of conflicts because of the multiple jurisdictions
Totally.
and their other proprietary use of it. So they've just now assigned unit numbers, and they're gonna hopefully you'll start seeing.
That's great to hear, because it was a vast deletion of data that you guys should be collecting.
No, agreed, and I brought that up too.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Dr. Ryan.
Go back a few minutes ago, you said, if a hospital's red, EMS can't send information. That's
So-
why. So we just say this is an emergency.
No, so what happens is you won't have that opportunity to select. I mean, that's not something that's written in stone yet, but you could always make a phone call. You can always call that.
The override's phone.
Yes,
We're being theoretical right now. What I think Dr. Kruger was saying is that essentially we can bolt on certain pieces to the E-Bridge once we mature enough. So that there's more visibility and better communication with other things like the diversion board, right? It's not, none of this is to supplant good practice. None of this is to supplant good clinical practice inside the EMS bus. None of it's to supplant good communication. So if, for instance, your E-Bridge platform blows up, pick up the phone. I mean, we have a backup. Again, we want to make sure that we're saying things that make common sense to everybody as we bring this technology to the forefront. And people will get better. I mean, the providers that aren't really facile with it right now will get better at it. And we'll get better at it.
I just want to be sure that the providers will use mechanisms to thread their notification.
That's
How
right.
they get
It's going there anyway. They can't not choose.
That's what my concern is.
yeah,
Yeah, I just want to bring out the issue with the hospital, the EDs. I think every emergency department, every hospital have their own process of how they're answering the E-Bridge or answering calls from the providers out in the field. So, some hospital ED may have the nurse or the triage nurse as a acknowledging, but at NUMEC, we actually have the physicians actually acknowledging. So is it possible for each emergency department working with the E-Bridge people on how is it gonna work for us? I mean, long as it's within the rule of this body, as long as it doesn't affect how the EMS providers on the outside are notifying us. But once the notification gets to us, as long as we follow the rules and what that's set with this body, why can't we, work with General Dynamics and work out our own process and how we do it?
well, that's the reason why the hospital's paid for this as opposed to EMS, is because once that data gets to the hospital, you can do whatever you want to do with it.
Well,
So you could transmit it to your trauma teams using eBridge, you could transmit it to your STEMI service. That's what makes eBridge such a robust process.
New information right now that we're not aware of. So this cricket's even asking for it to be divided in terms of high priority and low priority.
Well, but it is.
So we don't have that. We don't have that right
Meaning
now.
the way that it works.
Yeah, the way that it
have
works.
a general device.
But we've been,
it's,
We
it's
didn't,
also
we
every
didn't have to
okay.
acknowledge.
twice.
We've been acknowledging every single one that's.
I do remember. So
It's
I'll
just.
take this one on the base. I'll let the chair take a breather.
Mm-hmm.
So, what we didn't want everybody to do is when we rolled it out, to start shutting it down.
Correct.
And I'm not pointing blame at anybody, but the initial impact was, can we shut this off, shut this up? Why don't we shut it all off and then just go back to where we were and not get started? So we said, no, let's just leave it on. It's gonna be a little annoying, and it is, I get it. But yes, we're starting to now modulate it so that it can be customized. So if you want to start to customize it to the point that it is within the rule set, if we're still able to exchange information back and forth, I think that's reasonable. I mean, obviously, within reason. Yeah, so if you don't have.
Sorry.
So, no, great question. If you don't have access to the GD rep, we'll make sure you get access.
Well, I've been working with Chelsea in the past. Is that the right
Yeah,
person?
yeah, and so, and Mike, right, and yeah, but Chelsea's great, and just let her know that you guys want. You know what you're doing, just say, look, we want to modulate some of the notifications, make priority, be silenced, help us out, we have a pretty, significant, response for EMS.
We've already told them that.
So that was okay. Yeah, but they, so go ahead, you got the green light, go do it, but initially we did say, please don't shut everything off.
Thank you.
So if I understand correctly, if you shut off, say, low priorities, giving a notification, you may not get an acknowledgement back. So that's a training issue for all of us providers, because at this point, we're kind of expecting an acknowledgement. It's okay if we're doing low priority, if we don't, if we know not to expect an acknowledgement, it's okay. But we need to communicate that.
I think
If
that
they're
was
doing it.
communicated in the beginning, because it was, we said that if a hospital doesn't acknowledge, doesn't mean the patient's not coming to the hospital.
Yeah.
The hospital's still responsible
accountable
for
for
the
the
Correct, I get, it. I'm just saying that as a provider, doing it out there, I've come to expect to hear that they, so.
You're getting ghosted.
That's all, it's an expectation on our part that we need to communicate, that's all I'm saying.
You're absolutely right.
So then
You're missing.
Go ahead.
Go
ahead. To your initial question, I think respectfully, my advice to Remsco and or the subcommittees individually or collectively would be, we've talked about this with the ED committee, get with the ED committee and see what the feedback is from our partners in hospital. As the intent is a bi-directional tool, we want that bi-directional feedback also. At the same time, we'll get together with the EMS providers to see what their feedback is. There's a lot of inconsistent information out there, if not false information, and obviously some confusion based on that. So
I'd be interested to know if there's gonna be an adjustment in the training curriculum, just to add the technology as part of the communication.
yeah, we've talked with the education committee about, just adding 5 slides to the EMT curriculums for, both refresher and originals. Just for awareness, if nothing else.
I mean, just to light up the app before you actually hit the trial.
Yeah.
So you can, use your elbow, your nose, your pinky, whatever you have available, if you're that person trying to multitask.
Right, and just to reiterate that there's been 0 changes to the provider facing end of it. Since the initial training, and those videos are and remain consistent, so that from the provider aspect hasn't changed. The hospital end, both individually and collectively, we have those ongoing conversations about workflow and everything else, and the initial intent was everything comes over the same. The quick feedback understandably was we don't have staff for that, so let's alter that. And that's the benefit of this forum and others, that we continue to, change that. So, that communication did go out. I'll reiterate it and I'll get to you guys so you can be sure that you have it. But nothing's being turned off on the hospital end. You still get greens, yellows, and red alerts. The reds sound the same as it'll knock you off your feet as intended, right? The yellows and greens can be softened to, I love your cricket shirt, because I think the phrasing we used was a less innocuous or a more innocuous click or something.
Right, something that.
Yeah. So
See,
if that hasn't happened yet, let me know, and we'll get together with GB and make sure that's configured that way. And that goes true for any of the ERs, but again, I think the intent was we don't want anything turned off, at least we missed something.
And from a provider's perspective, at least my colleagues and myself, we really like it and look forward to contribute anything we can to. Very much so.
Thank you. I mean, we're going to be learning as a group. That's the most important thing that we learn through this. Technology continue to change, we're going to continue to evolve. Let's evolve together, do it. So.
Yeah, so just on my
So all the things that were said, once again, the original intention was to be able to capture all of the various agencies, both the commercial agencies, hospital-based, and to make sure that we had communications throughout from all of the various agencies, and we knew that it was going to grow. It was an enhancement that, once again, is 21st century, and once again, taking away, we still have the radios, we still have phones, we still have numbers that we can call. As far as the diversion and the redirection and stuff, yeah, our agencies are supposed to be checking that diversion board before they leave the scene to return it. And there are agencies and stuff that either disregard it, or once again, they wait until they get close to the hospital, and then as they're pulling in, they're giving the notifications and stuff with it. For hospital awareness, I think it's a great tool, because once again, they're gonna see the number of ambulances, especially commercial-based ambulances, so they can get their staff and stuff together and have the appropriate staff to reduce that wall time and stuff for the agencies. And if you have a problem, email it to the council. Once again, get it to us. Once again, we're not in the office 24/7, 365, but send it. And then once again, we can review it. That's the reason why we put the server in, so the QA, QI, and the REMAC, as well as the REMSCO, we can go back and research and see where the problem lies. Is it an agency problem? Is it a hospital-based problem? How can we solve that problem? And that's really, the goal as it grows and when people become more comfortable with it. We knew there was going to be hiccups, and we'll deal with the hiccups. But for the most part, that was, once again, to be able to get everybody on the same page, to have a communication system available to each and every agency. And we've had a significant buy-in, like 99% of the agencies that we never had before that are actually using the system. So, like I said, reach out to us, and if you have any questions, call.
Great, thank you. Any further? Thank goodness. Okay, glad we were able to talk about that. Because it's still like growing pains, so I think we're doing great. Next committee would be the Nassau EMS redesign tag. I think.
It's like the spinning wheel that you see with the windows, that makes you absolutely crazy.
We had the crew force discussion before this. So that's something to look forward to, but it's progress.
Yes.
Okay. All right, Chairman Mackey.
Okay.
Give us what you
Thank
got.
Just from the REMSCO councils or the program agency, day-to-day administration is moving forward. Once again, we're doing well. We're getting a lot of assistance from the fire marshal staff. Once again, answering the emails as well as the phones and stuff, especially during the daytime, and getting us the information that we need so that we can stay current with what's going on out there. As far as all of our bill payments are current, and we're awaiting New York State reimbursements on the council side for the past fiscal year. Everything's been submitted for that. And we're just getting paperwork and stuff together on the program agency side to be able to submit on their behalf with that. Once again, as Dr. Kugler said, I want to extend our congratulations from the REMSCO Council to Rashmi Gujral for Physician of the Year Award, and once again, paramedic Paul Zuckerberg from Belmore Fire Department, who received the ALS Provider of the Year Award from New York State Bureau of EMS. Well deserved, and once again, thank you for your contributions to our system. As Dr. Kugler said, we had a brief informational session just prior to this meeting, once again, to get our idea, to find out more about the crew force program that's being instituted here in the county. Once again, it's in its infancy. It's being worked on to once again get it out to the providers. Once again, just like eBridge, there's a buy-in program and stuff on this. If once again we can get the availability awareness and improve the communications with all of our PSAPs as well as all of our units, it'll make it a lot easier for us to be able to get the appropriate units to the calls. As I mentioned at the REMSCO meeting last month, I had sent a letter to Nassau County administration inquiring about an EMS memorial site. They've gotten back to me and once again have granted approval for a location within Eisenhower Park to establish that EMS memorial down here for all of our providers that have once again passed away in the line of duty. And also, once again, those that have put in a significant amount of time over the last 60 some odd years
in putting this system together. And I'm putting together a committee and once again, looking at the cost analysis and once again, trying to look at funding to get that off the ground. Next month, on November 1st, the Remsco Council elections will be held for the executive board as well as for our council members and stuff. Everything's been sent to the membership committee to be reviewed and once again adopted for the 2024 year. So once again, please stay tuned for that. As Doc said, on the county level, the Nassau County EMS Sustainability Committee is just awaiting a meeting. Once again, paperwork has been submitted to the county with recommendations and other information and stuff regarding that. And we hope to, in the near future, have the meeting to go over the draft and the recommendations to see where we stand as far as reorganization of the EMS system. On the disaster preparedness end, once again, we've had a lot of moving parts. We had multiple meetings. Thank you all to the REMAC as well as the Remsco Council for adopting the MCI plan. Once again, went through unanimously during the last meeting. We've been working to go through the suggestions as well as comments on that and working with some of the language to once again not recreate the draft or the policy, but once again just to make sure that the wording is correct in there. And we're in the process of, we had a meeting last week of working with training and education as well as the communications committees to develop a training curriculum for both the academies as well as the multitude of agencies that we're dealing with. Last couple of things, Dr. Zazo, if you need it, once again, QA, QI, once again, if we can help you in any way, once again, with our membership to assist. I know we're expanding in many different directions with RSI and other issues with that. You know, you feel free to reach out to me and we'll get forward any names and anybody interested. And as Dr. Kugler said, inspections and stuff, if you have any issues or you have a pending inspection coming up, please reach out to us if you're not quite sure what you need. Rather than once again getting caught short. We've had a number of downgrades for issues and stuff regarding necessary documentation, especially surrounding controlled substances. So please let us know, and once again, we'll get you the information you need prior to your inspections to keep everybody at their current levels. And that's pretty much all I have. We have it. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm actually texting back and forth to one of our award winners, Dr. Gujral.
She was just on.
So she says thank you. Let's see, moving on. So Nassau County Fire Coordinator, or EMS Coordinator, sorry. I had Fire Marshal's office.
Yeah, you can't separate us from the fire service, I get it. Thanks. No offense. So, good afternoon, everyone. I'll try not to be redundant, but let's see. So just from the state level and regional stuff. So an update, as was asked, from our EPCR platforms. Just so everyone's aware, due to some of the ongoing issues with ESO, the state has turned off all of the rules and schematron being applied to all ESO charts, allowing everything to come through. That's complete, incomplete, good information, bad information, and whatnot. That was in an effort to try and get the correct information or any information to the regions, to the state, more importantly to the hospitals, who, as some in this room know, when you're looking for certain PCRs, they're not there. Those rules, along with the change, the national change to the NEMSIS 3.5 standards, will be fully turned back on January 1st. Please check with your EPCR vendors to make sure that they are ready for the 3.5 implementation, because not all of them appear to be on track for that. So if you need more information, as always, see me on the side. The last thing I'll sort of wet everyone's whistle, if you looked at the state recordings for the state meetings or any of the briefings that come out, mine or anyone else's, you should see really the beginnings of a robust and intensive discussion around the final sunset date for the EMTCC level of care in New York State. So there is no hard date. If a hard date is put in place, I assure you that everyone will have years worth of notice, but know that at some point within our lifetime, the EMTC will cease to exist in New York State. So in the briefing, in the REMAC, if you don't want to delve through the 90 pages of the briefing or whatever, there's a ton of statistics in there. The state polled statewide and then broken down by region specific to the AMT CC. So just to give you a status of where we're at, between Nassau and Suffolk, there's less than 300 active CCs. Within Nassau, we probably have less than 100. So again, with regional credentialing and some other stuff, we're able to at least give our best estimate of those numbers, something that we never would have had before. Many of them have, and thankfully, taken the opportunity to bridge up to paramedics. So the similar discussion with the paramedic bridge is how much longer should that go on? We're currently running 2 bridges a year. The current bridge program statewide has about 20 people in it. The next bridge, which starts this month, has 7 people in it statewide. So it's coming to fruition that this is going to be self-limiting at some point. More specific to the physicians, if not in this region, I can assure you, as I'm sure Dr. Kugler will, other regions have already begun the discussion about removing EMTCC from the protocols in the acknowledgement that there's no sustainable curriculum or scope of practice that's applicable to them. So whether it's a medical, legal, or anything else like that, again, not to spook anybody, sort of, if you've been thinking about taking the bridge, my advice would be getting to the bridge. But just for awareness, here and everywhere else, we should be starting to really look at and talk about the future of the CC. So that's all I got.
Thank you. Any questions for Don? Fantastic. All right. And anything from the fire marshal's office?
Just the Googles.
Okay. That's easy. There. The ED committee, which is a REMSCO committee, but it also represents here. Dana Cortpasso had to work, so she was unable to attend, had no report at this time. That was by an email. So moving on to unfinished business, we have the eBridge updates. Thank you for that robust discussion. I think that's pretty much dead for today. Policy committee, anything?
So when we get the other comments on our side, we'll hold the meeting to deal with them.
Okay, fantastic. So look for that.
And then just an awareness that we updated everything based on what we had decided on, and we're going to reissue it.
Okay, yeah, this body did vote to approve the updated RSI policy, but you just never got a final copy. So when that's put together by the program agency, we send it out to everybody for your records.
So rather than making 3 more phone calls, while I have both of you here, Dr. Dishner and Dr. Newberg, do you want to pass it back and your committee would prefer to see it one more time?
He said there were some other changes to it.
Yeah, that's what I'm, wink, wink, hint,
Well,
hint.
it's what we agreed on. It's just prettier.
Right, yeah, we talked about it, because it was already passed by this body last
Right.
time, we just had to change the wording again.
Do you want last eyes on it or should we put it in the manual? I guess that's my question procedurally.
Well, they have to agree.
Good.
Yeah.
Alright, so-
When you send me, I'll send him. If he sends it, I'll send it back to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I know that, you think of how that would have been on the phone. You think it was bad in person. Thank you.
For that.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, guys.
So the government's
Warning.
yeah, warning.
They say you don't want to see how the sausage is made.
Well, he goes, ding,
Yeah, no,
it goes, ding,
yeah.
5 minutes later, then it goes, ding, 20 minutes later.
So moving on to new business, we have, I guess the policy that we just talked about. You wanna do your ELS?
Yeah,
Is it
approval
okay?
for the Lido and Point Lookout Fire District, I can verify it's good.
Who's that, Matt?
Thank you,
You don't point lookout.
Fire District.
Fire
Just to
district.
confuse the world, it's the Point Lookout Lido Fire Department, but it's the Lido and Point Lookout Fire District. Which
So
no one can
which agency is requesting the,
The agency code is Lido and Point Lookout Fire District,
okay,
that's what the code's under.
so that's, under new business from the Airway Committee, just. Comes as a second motion to this committee, we'll vote by, exception, anybody? Nay or abstain? Okay, so that passes. And coming from the Credentials Committee. We have two requests to become field physicians. For the region, currently the region has. Dr. Zito, Dr. Zimmerman, Dr. Newberg, Dr. Brandler, Dr. Josh Kugler, Dr. David Kugler, Dr. Hardoon as field physicians credentialed in the region. Oh, and you're on the list too, sorry, Dr. Zazo.
I have an ID card, I didn't start with.
Yeah, okay, so I looked at the whole list, so thank you. All right, so coming as I guess sort of second emotions, the documentation was all complete for both doctors. Again, I think Dr. Schwartz Cohen is a family practice physician who's becoming an EMT, almost completing her EMT course. She's also taken ATLS, PALS, BCLS, NRP. So she has all the things plus a letter of support from her agency. I think that she meets even the state regulatory requirements to provide online medical control. So she met criteria to become an agency medical director or field physician for her agency. And Dr. David Silver, who's a board certified emergency medicine physician from Glen Cove, being asked to become a field physician. So we could just do them together if that's okay. And by exception, anybody say nay or have an abstention to their becoming field physicians. Okay, so
Remind me, who does the QA for them?
for the doctors?
Yep.
Well, if the doctor touches the patient as a physician, it's fully on them.
So my
It's
question-
it's
OPMC.
OPMC, right?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So pause for just a moment. Maybe we need to take this off the record. If we're approving them, then we're looking at their credentials and saying, we're approving them for this
We're putting them to provide medical control in the region.
field physician. This is for field physician.
Right, so we're approving them to provide,
Their practice in the
Med-
field.
as a doctor with a license to practice medicine and surgery in the state of New York, you could treat anybody anywhere at any time.
I get it.
But
So
what we're doing is, as a field physician, this credential authorizes you to provide online medical control at the site of an emergency and then be able to pass that patient off to medical control without having to ride with the patient, which is normally a regulatory requirement. So we're credentialing you only as a medical control physician for the region in the period. If you touch a patient, that's 100% on you. Okay, I'm not gonna tell another doctor how to take care of somebody when they're at the bedside. I'm not.
so so hearing that, the only question would be at the threshold of when is it appropriate to hand the patient down, hand the patient off, and when, and sometimes when a provider.
So that's delineated. If there's anything that's outside the scope of the provider that you're with, or that's not in protocol or practice, you have to stay with the patient if you perform that skill. If it's outside the level of paramedic
So does it, again, we should probably have this debate, so as far as Dr. Cohen, I didn't see all her credentials and so forth. Do you feel that her assuming care from a highly trained paramedic is in the best interest of patients because of her medical degree?
because of the medical degree plus the additional training, plus the letter of support from her agency. She's becoming an EMT.
If you vetted it and the body wants it,
So-
great, I just didn't know like how that.
So with the questions that sort of after the motion, so,
Okay, fair enough.
so any other further questions regarding clarity on the field physician position? Okay. So moving on to new business, we have to create the slate for the December elections for the officers for this body. The officer position is a 2-year position. There's three officer spots. There's the chair, the vice chair, and the secretary. Being the secretary, you have to sort of collect the names and the nominations. So moving on, we'll start with secretary. Anybody want the position of secretary? Nominated.
I nominate John.
Okay, so you're John, you can't step out. Okay, so I need I'm sorry. I need to close the nominations for secretary. Okay. All right, so yes. Okay, for vice chair, I need some victim.
I'm nominating Josh.
Okay. Josh,
That's not accepted yet.
okay.
Second that.
And there was something here. Okay, and for chair? Thank you. I'll take it. Yeah, okay. All right, so, actually, we need to close the nominations for vice chair. Yeah, okay, and then close the nominations for chair. Okay, so we have a slate for Dr. Zazo, Dr. Joshua Kugler, vice chair, and then Dr. David Kugler, chair, which will be presented for vote at the December meeting. Thank you for that. Or not, I don't know. Just one last point of order or business is that the December meeting is moved to the second week of December, not the first week due to conflicts. So it's at the same time, 2:15. The location will be, I believe,
Be it Morelli.
it's
No
gonna be in
further
Morelli, okay?
In renovation.
That's the 13th.
The Morelli Center.
Okay,
13th.
so yes, Wednesday, December 13th at 2:15. Please. And hopefully it'll be quick, we'll just do this. The officers. Anything else for the good of the order or for any other new business? Okay. motion to adjourn. I was in first.
Hold on, Doc.
Oh, hold on.
The trauma triage criteria in the current, the trauma triage criteria in the current policy manual is the old one.
Yeah, but we had already, at the last meeting, we had said.
Just want to make sure we're good to change
Yeah,
that.
please.
You
Yeah,
got
that
it.
was done at a prior.
Good.
Okay, motion
you.
adjourned, seconded. Okay. It's 3:28. Thank you, everybody, for everything.
Adjourn.